Hello, welcome to Lemon Studios, where we talk anything and everything entertainment. I'm, of course, the Lemon himself, Zeke Lemon, and this is my review for Friday Night SmackDown. But before we get into that, let's get the house clean out of the way. Share and leave a like, comment below, let me know your thoughts on Friday Night SmackDown, and of course, hit that subscribe button as it helps me grow into my YouTube career. I would greatly appreciate it. Now, all that out of the way, let's get into the review, shall we? So, this was an interesting episode of Friday Night SmackDown. I don't know what's going on with WWE lately. They have really hit a rut when it comes to their creative, because overall the matches are fine, but again we are back to that redundant of there has to be an interference in every single match. You know, the main event's not going to have a finish whatsoever. I mean, once John Cena and Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul was announced, it's like, well, there's our DQ match because it's just too big of a match, and sure enough, that's exactly how it ended. And then, you know, every other match on this card, too, I think had interference in some way. Chelsea Green versus Charlotte Flair, the Secret Service was getting involved all the way through because we had to get the cake involved. We had, what else did we have on this episode of SmackDown? Oh, the two Bloodline matches, or sorry, MFT matches, the tag title match, not tag titles, but JC, Mateo, and Talalonga versus the Motor City Machine Guns, that had interference. Solo versus Sammy had interference within it. And a lot of angles are just really got my head scratching quite a bit throughout. Like everything that we're doing with Carmelo Hayes. Now, overall, I think we just had to put a pause on the Miz and Carmelo Hayes storyline. I think the whole point of this tag team or this formation is to turn Carmelo babyface. If anyone can turn anyone into a good guy where they want people to love him, it is the Miz. And I don't know why Miz went off TV for a couple weeks, but I think when Miz had to leave, I think he was filming a show. He's the new host of Gladiators, right? So if he was doing that, then okay, somewhat understandable. But you know, when he had to leave, then it left Carmelo Hayes in a little bit of a rut. And then, you know, he's starting to show up on TV a little bit more often. And then he's going to go ask for a U.S. title match, which I don't think he has the win-loss record for that. Then he sees the Miz, and Miz is like, hey, we're going to be in a tag match next week. But it turns out he was lying, and then he's going through. So I think we are supposed to be frustrated with Carmelo right now because we want Carmelo to be on his own. But it's just how we're getting there. That the whole execution is just, it's not flowing well. And, you know, if Miz had to leave, then Carmelo should have been going on a losing streak. And then, you know, he sees Miz, where have you been? And then, because, you know, Miz made him lose that confidence within himself. He no longer feels like he's him unless the Miz is there. And he goes on this little bit of a losing streak. Miz comes back. Where have you been? Okay, well, now that you're here, I can start winning again. There were ways to get to the point that we are at with Carmelo just willingly re-accepting the Miz to go back into the tag division. There were ways to get there. I just don't know why we didn't execute that. And don't give me this whole 3-hour bull crap, because it wouldn't have been there with the 3 hours anyway. That John Cena Logan Paul segment would have gone even longer if this was a 3-hour SmackDown. So yeah, and also the whole thing that we're doing with Julia and Kiana, you know, basically both women's titles at this point. You just got a big win over Tiffany Stratton. We don't immediately have your next challenger set up. And I was really curious to see what we were going to do with Jade, because if you saw her tweets, how she is like, hey, she was like, yeah, you're right, I sucked. And then she goes, yeah, you lost, you're a loser. And you know, the people who are taking advantage, we're going to say, yeah, you suck. She goes, yeah, you're right. I was curious to see how we were going to incorporate that into the storyline of her. But no, she just comes in and goes, you're lucky your foot was on the rope, otherwise I would have beat you. And then she still has this confidence, which, again, we'll see how it goes within the following weeks. Maybe Jade Cargill has a match next week. She goes on a little bit of a losing streak, and she is starting to have that doubt within her. Her confidence is shaken up, and she is just putting on a facade. But I had no hint of that on this episode of SmackDown either. I was very curious to see this new shade of Jade as a not-so-confident force, and again, she has to recapture that confidence. Is that the same thing as I was saying with Carmelo Hayes? Sure. But again, with Jade, who is no offense to Carmelo, who is a much bigger star, I think it would have been very, very interesting to see. And again, Tiffany just not having her next challenger set up just really irks me. You know, the women's world title, we have some focus on it. We'll have that match finalized Monday after Io versus Naomi. I think Naomi needs to hold on because I do think Stephanie is going to win the title, and I don't think Io needs another short reign. But yeah, the fact that we couldn't do that with Tiffany whatsoever just really doesn't sit right with me. And then again, Julia. All right, okay, we're going to do Julia versus Jade. That could be fun. That could be whatever. And maybe Jade's the person to finally give the light that this U.S. title needs. But nope, she walks away. We give the Michin. So I guess we'll do Julia versus Michin for the U.S. title, which again could be fine. But again, we just need some real star power here. And I just don't think this was the story evidence to do that, especially merging all of the women's titles minus the tags kind of into one on this week's episode of SmackDown. To me, the best segment overall, minus the Cena opening promo until you talked about Brock, was the Charlotte and Alexa segment. I think they just have great chemistry within each other, especially the backstage portion before they even got out to the ring, where Charlotte's like, hey, I did something for you. Yeah, we're going to go out to the ring. And Alexa's like, oh, God, what did you do? And then the whole cake, I love the whole bit of Charlotte has her name really big, and Alexis is very tiny. Yeah, you know, you're here too. And I like the addition of Charlie as well. The crowd went crazy for it. I think those toys are going to sell. You can get that bundle, probably sell it for $50, and it will do pretty well on that. Yeah, that whole back and forth was really good. Chelsea coming out, Nick Aldis making the match official, introducing a new referee, because I do believe that is his first match on the main roster. Even had a bow on it. I thought it was funny. I thought it was great. And then the match was fine. Of course, we had interference and all the stuff that we expected. Charlotte wins 1, 2, 3, and now we move on and what else to do with the women's tag titles. But I am glad that they are being showcased. The John Cena stuff to me was a lot of fun. I mean, just pure baby face. Like, it was like dopamine coming through me, because I am one of the few people who did enjoy the heel run. Because, I just think I would never see it, and I was just happy to get it. And now that he is back to full-on babyface, it's just like, oh, yes, I did miss this Cena quite a bit, because he's just so corny, and he's so cheesy, but he leans into it so well that it's just natural to him. All the things he was talking about, and, like, yeah, I'm going to be really real with y'all. And I do believe him when he says it. He goes, I just want y'all to remember me when I'm gone. I'm afraid y'all won't. And I feel like no matter how big of the star you are, I think we all struggle with that. Well, not all, but the celebrities. I feel like all celebrities struggle within that. Like, they got a nice little run out of it. A lot of people love them. And then, you lose steam and, you're about to, call it a day and retire, and then you're just like, is my legacy going to be impacted? I feel like that's a very real thing that Cena talked about. Really did enjoy that. Logan Paul coming out. I know a lot of people aren't really pleased that it's going to be Logan versus Cena. I'm just kind of annoyed that we're not going to get straight to the Brock match, because why did he show up and then he's going to disappear for another couple months? It's one of the few things that frustrate me about Brock, because, yes, Roman is basically the Brock Lesnar now, where he shows up every once in a while. But at least with Roman, when he returns, he's going to be here for at least a month, right? And he's going to see that story all the way through. With Brock, he would just show up and then disappear for months again, and it looks like we're going to do that again. I heard a lot of people say, yeah, but they'll probably do Crown Jewel. Which, if that's the case, then fine. I mean, if it's 1 month, sure. But, yeah, I mean, I was kind of digging everything that Cena was doing until he talked about Brock saying, yeah, if you want some, come get some, whatever. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to get it. And then Logan Paul coming out. It is what it is. I mean, if you're going to line up some bad guys, it's just a matter of who's going to be the final one. If Logan Paul is going to be a part of the farewell tour, as long as he's not the last opponent, then it's all good to me, because Logan Paul can go in the ring, and I think they'll have a fun match in Paris, especially with that Paris crowd. Oh man, it's gonna be insane. But yeah, overall, again, this episode of SmackDown was fine. I'm gonna try to limit that into these videos, but yeah, it's just a lot of questionable decisions that we are making that we'll see as they get followed through. Like, again, everything we did with R-Truth as well. It was nice seeing the funny R-Truth back too, but I really hope we don't just go right back to that R-Truth just because Cena's a babyface again. I would like to see that split between R-Truth and Ron Killings, and just depends on which one you get and which one is provoked. And I would like to see him more showcased on TV as well. And then we already talked about everything else that had a problem with it. But yeah, it was just a really weird episode of SmackDown. I don't know if he wrote Cody Rhodes off TV either, because I assumed on Monday Roman taking 3 tsunamis means he wasn't going to work Paris, because he has to go film that Street Fighter movie. Cody's also in that Street Fighter movie, and, it was just a Claymore it was just a Claymore, and it was just going through the announce table, but it was a Claymore through the announce table. Like, he went through the announce table horizontal. So in a way, that could also be how you write Cody off for a month. But if you don't do Drew versus Cody in excuse me, sorry. If you don't do it in Paris, I just don't see when we do get to that, because Crown Jewel, if we assume they're going to continue on the tradition of champion versus champion, then it's, it's Cody versus Seth in Perth, and, that's a big money match. And then November, you would assume Cody's going to be part of the War Games with Cena, because I assume Cena's going to be part of War Games, but War Games is going to be the main event. Drew and Cody is the main event. Then you have December, and you have Cena's farewell song. Do you really do Cody versus Drew #1 in December? Do you save it until the Royal Rumble? I don't know. I don't know. It's really weird. So I'm going to assume it's Drew versus Cody in Paris. I think, if anything, you could write this off for Cody to not be there for the full run, and it's just Drew that's carrying the promos, which he can do, and then Cody makes his return in Paris. Maybe Cody only has to film for 2 weeks. It's all a matter of how big his character is. From my understanding, Roman's character is bigger than Cody's character. So I'm not fully committed that Roman's going to work Paris yet either, but we will wait to see on how that's executed. But yeah, again, overall, weird episode, fine episode of SmackDown. Nothing memorable about it whatsoever, besides the Cena stuff. But yeah, let me know what y'all thought about this episode down in the comment section. Leave a like if you made it this far within the review. I do greatly appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button, as I am trying to grow into my YouTube career. And until next time, guys, I'll see you here at Lemon Studios.